Welcome back to Hibiscus Hatcheries. I've just been cleaning out the water, what do you call it? Pondless water feature. Well, the water feature for the juveniles. You'll get a little clip of that. And here we are talking about heating, lighting, trying to get indoor keepers a little bit more comfortable and understanding, not to stress about your keeping of your tortoises inside and overheating them and permitting and things like that, and metabolic bone disease and how to prevent the growth of that. So let's get into it. So I'll try and nail off a few things. What's LED for? LED's for plants. Plants only, grows plants. That's one. As you can see, I have lots of spare Acadia original units. Great, but the new luminized ones are a million times better for doing lovely things like programming how much daylight they do and they don't get. But the big thing with the new luminized units, they come with their own individual cable. It's fine. If you're wanting to do a link cable, the original units had a link cable that came with them. The new ones have their own link cable and they're specific to what you want to do. So you have to choose one of 3 different link cables and you have to buy that separately. That's for the Acadia Luminized. Great system. We'll go into that at a later stage. We don't spotlight heat at all. We don't do combination spotlights and lights for many reasons, but the big reasons is this is exactly what causes what's happened to Jilly's got metabolic bone disease. She's been kept in a situation with a spotlight on her probably for very long hours a day, and maybe even night heating, which you don't need to do. Night heating, you don't do it. Okay, so we're trying to prevent this. We don't indoor keep after essentially 8 months of age, depending on the tortoise. So, as you can see here, we have Poco, our beautiful little Poco, and she is coming up 3 years of age. 3 years of age. She'll be 3, I think. Whereas this is Tank. This is our second tortoise that we ever produced. And as you can see, he did a little bit more indoor keeping. He's nearly 6 years of age. As you notice, they're probably not as big as you'd expect as well, because what you do by not bromating is you're giving them an extra season per year. This is Daisy. I'll just get her out. As you can see, she does have a little bit of permitting, and that was prior to our care. So all the rest of the smooth stuff, so the stuff in the middle you can't do anything about, and then as it grows, she grows smoother. So that's how the actual shells work. This is Punga. He wasn't ours either. He was done a very interesting looking feces, which was not the best. But anyway, this is Punga. He's almost perfect. He may have been kept indoor at the beginning, who knows, but a tiny little bit of pyramiding like that is essentially natural growth. What we're trying to get away from is being lazy keepers, essentially. Yes, a combination spotlight like this will do your job, but what it will do is tortoises generally get trapped under light at times, so they will climb up onto the highest point I've noticed in the enclosures to be under light. Our enclosures are set up so The UV is on right across all day, every day. But with the new luminised systems, are brilliant because we can actually mimic. Where are we going? I'll put a thing up. We can actually mimic the percentages of when the sun rises and when it goes to sunset, and we've locked in different times on the luminised. So that is exactly what we're doing here. So this Lumino sun track is what we've done on the Acadia luminised, and that's mimicking essentially where we are. We're in mid-September. So the last two Hermann's babies that we have, hatchlings, are 8 months old. They're going to their new homes as of this weekend. Yay! Oh, and the other thing, thank you so much everybody for subscribing. Really appreciate it. Helps me get keep going. And anyway, so thank you. If we're ever to put heat onto, this is another UV, and this is one thing I'll show you as well. So that's UV. The intensity of this is a compact. It's used, so it's not great. But I will show you something. So that is, only a foot, 30 centimeters away, and we're at 1.6. So we're having to actually get really close. So about that close, about 4. So we're going to maybe 8 inches to the desired amount of UV. We have the luminised system, so we actually have it at 80% at the moment. I think it is maxing out in the middle of the day. This is the other big argument that I have, is that in just every day outside where these guys live and those guys live, they might not get much UV at all. They may get a lot of UV in the middle of the day here. Middle of summer, they can get up into the 13s, which is way off the scale here. Mediterranean weather from sort of maxes out, I think, between about 8 and 10, whereas we max out in Auckland, New Zealand about 13, 14, which is really high. That's why we have a lot of issues in regards to human health and skin cancer and so forth. But besides that, that's not what we're concerned at. So, and you also have to remember that the tortoises aren't generally up in the middle of the day. They will get up in the morning, thermoregulate, wander around. They may graze for a few hours, get full, and then if it's really hot, they'll go hide somewhere in the shade. And there's huge differences in heating when it becomes from sunlight. And the closest thing that we can mimic with sunlight is spotlights. Can do it to a point, but then they can get trapped under. And this is part of the reason why we like to go with the UV separate. UV's going on its own thing, and we supply heat ultimately through a projector, Acadia projection bulb. They're brilliant. They are infrared A and B, which is similar heat, radiating heat that you'll get from the sun. So the other thing, similar sort of thing, distance, less of a thing. We don't currently use those in our enclosures. We go for more of an ambient heat, and we use ceramics, which are infrared C, which is more like a radiated heat. So we only keep for 8 months. Most of that is in the winter, three odd months of the winter. So we're coming into the beginning of spring now, so it's about time that our tortoises will go outside anyway, and that's as long as we keep them indoors. We're very fortunate in that rate. But going back to it, another thing you got to remember is, even though these look robust and look like they will last forever. They won't. Ceramic poles do blow it, essentially at some stage on at the end of their life. So always be careful on that. The other thing is, whenever applying heat, we always use a thermostat controller. The Habistats are great. So, and you're always wanting to have the sensor. If you can see here, that's the sensor. You always want it under basically the direct of the heat. So this is roughly how we have our enclosures set up. Remember, LED is only for plant growth. If you want plant growth, always ideally try and get bulbs a good, depending on how you're setting up your terrariums or tortoise tables, have them pretty much the whole length of the actual space where they're going to get exposed to. We use spider plants and other succulents, anium in our enclosures. Over the next month or so, I will be replanting the indoor enclosures with plantain and dandelion, all getting ready hopefully for the next hatchlings at Christmas. So if I'm well aware that a solar meter is fairly pricey commitment. I'm also well aware it's taken me a long time to get one, and we don't do a lot of indoor keeping. We do it very minimal, actually. It's max of about 8 months that our hatchlings are in indoor care. You'll hear a bit of rustling around. It's the tortoises below me. They can't say that they've been too accommodating for the sense of smell, but I hope you're all learning a bit. So getting back to the way that we keep, we have a heater on a sensor on a timer. The big reason why we have a timer is we only heat for 4 hours a day. We only heat between 10 and 2 because that's essentially the peak of the sun. And that's mimicking the similar to the 100% of what we do in the summer months, and to 80% or 90% or down to 80% in late autumn and stuff like that. That's how we do our controlling of the luminized system. And unless you have a luminized system, you won't understand. So with the luminized, Bluetooth, which is a bit frustrating. I wish they were actually Wi-Fi, because then I could sit in my house and do them. But I have to actually go out. We have the cross shed, which is the only indoor keeping that we actually do. I do have I have an enclosure in here, but that may be a project down the line. So what are we getting back to? Heating, please use either ceramic. Don't overheat. We keep it at about 29, 28 degrees Celsius on the thermostat control. The thermostat controls that we use are the dimming ones. I think they're personally brilliant. Basically, and I don't think you can use spotlights. By all means, I'm not judging anybody. We indoor keep, we outdoor keep. We indoor keep for a specific reason. Other people have different reasons, and they indoor keep. We mimic as much as that we can the daylight. And if you can do that in a big environment, that will be great for an adult tortoise. But you got to sort of understand, like, Punga here, he is 14 years of age. So within another 6 years, so the same time span of old Tank's going to be the same size as Punga. So we'll put you back in there. So always make sure your heat is ideally a ceramic projection or a projection bulb. On a thermostat controller, always have your thermostat sensor under the heat source about the same height as what the Tortoise is. That's going to be the hottest point. You're going to understand is that when indoor keeping, generally you're running with ambience. What else we got? We'll have a quick discussion on humidity. Very low. Using things like Cora is not good. It's bad for your own health if you're keeping it inside. I've noticed a big change in the smell and the moisture in the shed since we stuck a dehumidifier. I've got an incubator in there that is making humidity as well, so it's all a big cycle. We have a heater in there so it doesn't get too cold over winter. We have an air conditioner in the shed for summer so it doesn't get too hot and the little babies don't pass away. Oh yes, it can get very hot. 36 and 38 degrees. Yeah, they're going to experience these sort of heat in their natural conditions, but they're going to be either hidden away under brush and book or under some little hidey hole or even down into the dirt to keep themselves cool. Or our species maybe not go into caves, but they can go into rock spaces and cooler places in the Mediterranean where they're from. So we got to understand all this about their life, and we have a similar, besides it's on the opposite side of the world, so it's the opposite side of the year, we have a similar sort of latitude from where some of these Hermanns and Greeks come from. So we're quite fortunate so we can easily put them outside. Getting back to indoor keeping, I think I've sort of nailed it off. Heating, always on a thermostat sensor, always underneath the heater. Heater always into a timer. Don't heat overnight, especially indoors. Like, you're better off keeping your environment, your own person, if it's in your apartment or in your bedroom or something like that. Make sure your bedroom doesn't get cold. If it's getting cold for you overnight, like 16 degrees centigrade, which is, I don't know, 64, does that say? Yeah, around 64, maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Get a ceramic heater or some type of heating for your actual space for you and your tortoise. That will prevent them wanting to brumate. If you're keeping your light cycles similar and the temperature doesn't drop below sort of 18 degrees, 16 to 18 degrees, you'll be fine. In saying that, this beautiful little tortoise, oh, my lovely Daisy, remember outdoor keeping in a very similar climate to where they come from, hasn't brumated at all this year. Daisy is probably going to start laying eggs in about 3 weeks' time. Yay! The anxiety and the stress. And she's feeling quite heavy. But she did not brumate at all this year. She's a Hermann's, Eastern Hermann's, and she decided to be up, and we were getting down to 0 degrees, so 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius, and she's still getting up when every day, and the days were getting up to sort of about 16 degrees Celsius, which we get back, I think it's about 60. Don't hold me to it. And the other one who did it was Jilly. Jilly spent most of her winter brumating. Punga, same species, very similar size, was a bit more of a sookie lala, weren't you, Punga? And you spent probably a couple months. He got up and down, so this other thing about brumating, it's not a solid fixed thing. So he got up and down and had a couple of days up and then a couple of weeks down and a month down and a couple of weeks up. And he's up today. It's nice and sunny outside, but he hasn't been technically out of the hutch the last couple of days because it was a bit windy and blowy where we couldn't stop you if we saved ourselves for any reason. You're getting out no matter what, right throughout winter. Daisy Daisy. So, I know that's going to be sort of confusing. Definitely don't need to heat your Mediterranean tortoises overnight. Make sure your room that they're in, if you're indoor keeping, is heated to a point that you can survive comfortably. So, thank you everybody. Thanks for subscribing. Really appreciate. I will keep on trying to educate you with a lot of things. So, LED is essential for the growth of plants. T5s, even in a this is essentially a T5, a compact, not the greatest, but I could imagine a whole roof studded with them or whatever, all on the individual timers. You know, you could go to town doing indoor keeping, for sure. I'm not going to judge your heating. Same thing, you could have a huge room like this and you could have different places that have, and you could use spotlights in those sort of scenarios. No, of course you could. I would have them on very short timers and have them maybe come on so the tortoises don't get stuck under them. So having multiple spotlights, great idea. Mimicking how the sun will be hot over there and cold over here if there's a bit of a cloud or something like that. And this we got to understand as well is that tortoises aren't exposed to UV light 24/7. They're not exposed to heat 24/7, and they're definitely not exposed to heat and UV all day. Very small parts of the day they'll be actually exposed to both, and maybe it's an hour, maybe 2 hours. Hence we have 4 hours. That's for a few reasons. That's to get an ambient temperature up in their enclosures. Peaks at about hopefully around 32, but the thermostat controls are set at 29. We have a terrarium one above the other, as you'll maybe not aware, and the higher terrarium is about 2 degrees hotter, and it helps the growth of the tortoise. So I will rotate the hatchlings every sort of 2 weeks between top and bottom, and that's to get them evenly growing. They will generally be about a month apart anyway, but if I have one clutch or two, a clutch upstairs, they will grow quite a bit quicker, so then they'll go down the bottom and vice versa. That's how we manage the growth here. And you'll notice that our juveniles, we're not in the game of over speed heating or overheating them. They grow nice, consistently, beautiful smooth shells, and happy active tortoises. I hope that's not too long for all of you. Hope I've made that a bit more interesting. But anyway, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed. It's stinky in here. These guys have been good. You guys haven't been so good. They have one, it's just mainly Punga because the other ones already did and I cleaned that all up. So let's try and look after our tortoises as best as we can. We adopted Jilly the way she is. It hasn't affected her life. She has funny little jelly bean eggs, but that's about it. And she's getting a lot more natural growth. I need to cut this quickly or finish up. So have a great day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribe if you haven't. Really appreciate it. Have a great day. Ta-ta.